And Michael Crick is with us now. Michael, are we suggesting the boy is father, the boy is father to the man?
I think it's complicated. I mean, clearly there are two schools of thought. I mean, there are those who are broadly friends of Nigel Farage who say, yeah, most of this was a joke. He did say silly things. A lot of the time he was trying to provoke fellow pupils, trying to wind people up, members of the staff, and so on. And yet, I have spoken to enough former pupils and there's evidence from former teachers to suggest that there were large numbers of people who thought that what Farage said, a lot of the time, he was being serious. Now, it's also interesting, looking into Farage's background, how many people say that the Farage of 30 years ago at Dulwich College was just like the Farage you have today, the cheeky chappy, the guy who always dressed smartly, polished shoes, who enjoyed life, enjoyed winding people up, enjoyed being provocative. So there is, in many ways, he was the man of 30 years ago. The question is, where is politics now, the politics of then?
Well, now, you managed to get some reaction out of him.
I did. I managed to catch up with him this afternoon outside his headquarters, and this is what he said. Mr. Farage, would you like to see the letter?
I've seen it before.
Have you?
Well, not for 30 years. Yes, of course, I said some ridiculous things that upset
Racist
them.
things?
Not necessarily racist things.
Not
but
necessarily racist?
Well, it depends how you define it. You see, I mean, you've got to remember that ever since 1968, up until the last couple of years, we've not been able in this country intelligently to discuss immigration, to discuss integration. It's all been a buried subject, and that's happened through academia, it's happened through politics and the media.
But, I mean, that letter, for instance, it cites an example of you taunting someone in class and having to be excluded.
I was excluded
by implication on racial grounds.
I was excluded from class dozens of times over the years for all
for
sorts
racist
of
comments?
reasons. No. I don't accept that.
I mean, it's not just that.
I was excluded
Fellow
from class.
pupils remember you making racist comments.
Well, I might have wound some of them up too. But all through.
So you made racist comments to wind people up?
All through the 1970s and 80s, I would counter any received wisdom on any subject quite deliberately. I wasn't alone in doing that. It was a very political school. We had people who were members of very left-wing organisations. We also had boys at school who were members of hard-right organisations.
What about the accusation that you marched through this Sussex village singing Hitler Youth songs?
I don't even know the words. I mean, none of this.
Maybe you did in those days.
None of this loses anything in telling, does it? And the truth of it is.
Well, how would a story like that emerge?
There was a small group of people there, in the teaching staff, who wanted to abolish the CCF. They even wanted to abolish wearing poppies and Remembrance Day parade. Can you imagine people being that extreme?
But those left-wing English staff wouldn't have been on the CCF.
Exactly.
So how would they know? How would they know if it wasn't somebody who was there?
Well, as I say, none of this loses anything in telling. People often believe what they want to believe. That is complete baloney. Was I a difficult, bullshit teenager who pushed the boundaries of debate further than perhaps I ought to have done? Yes. Have I, to some extent, in politics, continued to challenge things that are continued to be unchallengeable? Yes. Have I ever been a member of any extremist organisation, left or right? No.
Don't you worry that things like this and the comments by your colleague and friend Godfrey Bloom about Bongo Bongo Land make Ukip look like a racist party, or an inherently racist party?
No, because it isn't, and everyone knows that.
That doesn't worry you?
It would worry me if there was a scintilla of truth in it. And it would worry me if people out there genuinely thought it, but they don't. And I know that it's a big job of the political and media class to try and make the country think that somehow, because UKIP is daring to take on tough issues, that it's a racist party, but it is not. And that's evidenced by the kind of people that stand for us and now vote for us.
Michael Crick catching up with Nigel Farage about his school days earlier.